Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for showing up this morning to officially welcome back Kelly Krauskopf as President of Basketball Business Operations for the Indiana.
What if the one individual who has the capacity to elevate the WNBA to new heights is also the one who the league's establishment is secretly trying to destroy? Although it might seem like a paranoid dream, millions of fans think that Caitlin Clark is the object of a secret war because of a series of shocking on-court events, contentious off-court comments, music, and a brutal, heartless choice made by the highest authorities in music. The truth of this evolving. The narrative is darker and more intricate than anyone could have imagined, revealing a league at odds with its own success. Caitlin Clark's selection by the Indiana Fever with the first overall pick was praised as a historic moment that would alter women's professional basketball's trajectory. She wasn't your typical talented rookie. Music, she was a cultural force of nature and a roaming supernova that had drastically altered college viewership and record books. Her games attracted more spectators than MLB playoff games and Stanley Cup finals. She was the golden goose, forcing the league to switch from commercial aircraft to private charters on her own. The chosen one. Veterans have long demanded this modification. Secondary market tickets surged to unprecedented levels, and arenas that had previously had an abundance of empty seats were selling out in a matter of minutes. Caitlin Clark's influence was immediate, tangible, and sincere. Everything was set up for a magnificent coronation, a hero's professional debut that would improve the sport overall. Rather, she endured a brutal, relentless fire baptism. The welcome mat that had been taken away was replaced with a gauntlet beneath her. Her first game made it terrifyingly clear that this would not be an easy transition. There was an entirely different level of physicality. Defenders were not only occupying space, but they were also bigger, stronger, and faster. They were sending a message with every bump, music push, and hard screen, but this was more than just a strong, knowledgeable defense. It was very personal. Music. It was a vicious, targeted campaign that appeared to have been meticulously designed to punish her, make her question her place in this league, and keep her in check. And that silent message was going to be conveyed in the most obvious, unquestionable way possible. Mash the league's bitter underbelly by starting a flurry of debate that would pull back the curtain and reveal the gloom. The blows she was taking on the court were only the start of the worst story. It happened during a furious match against. Everyone in the sports world knew that something was gravely, profoundly wrong with the Chicago Sky. While fighting for position, it wasn't a challenging box out under the rim or a hard screen. Kennedy Carter delivered a vicious. In addition, Carter attacked Clark with a blindside shoulder hit that has no place in a basketball game. To committing a foul. A cheap, cowardly, and blatantly obvious shot was used to force Clark to the ground, far from the ball. As soon as the play went viral, the entire world let out a unified cry of protest. This wasn't a welcome to the league. Musical moment. This communication was intended to cause harm and was delivered with malicious intent. In addition to her partner Angel Reese's evident, happy celebration from the sidelines, Carter's haughty silence to any questions about the incident that followed only fueled the flames. This one unpleasant incident turned into a symbol for all that was wrong, exposing the long-standing hostility and jealousy that many had assumed were simmering beneath the league's surface. The WNBA's appalling first response, which was only elevated to a flagrant foul following harsh public criticism. There were multiple players. Caitlin Clark, the biggest star in the league, was by herself. It was a coordinated effort by veterans on one side of the battle. The phenomenon spread throughout the entire league, who thought she hadn't earned her stripes or paid her dues. Nevertheless, a much more horrifying tale began to emerge from her own locker room, a place nobody wanted to believe, while everyone else was talking about the league's cowardice and the foul music. As the season progressed, an extremely unsettling trend that was impossible for professional. Ignore internet detectives, basketball experts, and former players. Possibly the best shooter in the world. On multiple plays, Caitlin Clark would be wide open on the perimeter, hands up, and requesting the ball, only to have her teammates completely disregard her. The tape was undeniable. Clark stood by himself. 3 points would be assured when passes were pushed into players who were double covered in the paint. The Indiana Fever's encore chemistry now appeared broken, shattered, and more than just odd, and occasionally deliberately undermined. Angry looks at music, frustrated body language. The bench. The team gained notoriety for their intense, silent meetings. A frightening and more convincing. The debate that broke out on social media gave rise to conspiracy theories. Her own team was deliberately limiting her touches and freezing her in order to keep her stats low and humble her. Were they jealous of the unprecedented amount of media attention and the massive multimillion-dollar Nike contract, which featured music, a signature shoe, and the undeniable fact that a rookie at the age of 22 was now the focal point of the franchise's identity? These suspicions persisted in spite of seasoned star Aaliyah Boston's mysterious post-game comments. Her answers to questions from reporters regarding the seeming lack of chemistry were frequently brief, evasive, and full of corporate jargon, implying a deeper irritation she was unable to convey in public. The story was rapidly evolving from a simple description of a novice struggling to cope with the horrifying possibility of an internal uprising. Were the players who were supposed to be her friends purposefully undermining not just her opponents but also this generational potential? This internal strife resulted in the perfect storm, music, and a tumultuous and suspicious environment. The animosity wasn't confined to the court. Music, the league's powerful old guard, was preparing to deliver an even more explicit, formal, damaging message. The league's most respectable voices were spreading it through the media. Veteran performers from the past and present may initiate a clandestine but persistent effort to reduce her significance and normalize the brutal treatment she was subjected to. The most well-known instance came from WNBA legend Diana Taurasi, who, even before Clark was recruited, coldly anticipated her impending reality. A comment that, looking back, appears to be more of a threat or ominous prediction than an objective analysis, conveniently ignoring the fact that no rookie in professional sports history has ever. There has never been a league where music, other players, and commentators are under such intense pressure. Dismissed the relentless physicality as standard operating procedure in order to justify it. For any novice, the conversation inevitably got trickier and more complex, to talking about the extremely sensitive dynamics of a white musician becoming well known in a primarily black league. The incredible legacies of the black women who had spent years working in relative obscurity to build the WNBA from the ground up were, as many rightly pointed out, the media's relentless savior narrative unjustly and inadvertently destroyed them. This created a perfect storm of cultural conflict, professional jealousy, and righteous indignation. The older generation, who felt that their tremendous accomplishments were being mercilessly disregarded, and the new phenomenon, who participated in an intellectual battle and represented a significant shift in the financial and cultural landscape of athletics. She was a tidal wave of hype that threatened to destroy everything, not the rising tide that draws all boats to them. Millions of fans would be shocked, perplexed, and totally duped by what they had worked so hard to create. Decision made at the top level of the sport as a result of this long-simmering, unresolved conflict that was set to become an official, unassailable policy. The committee responsible for representing the most devastating evidence was provided by the United States of America on the international scene. That Caitlin Clark was being actively opposed by powerful institutional forces rather than a rival athlete or an envious. Caitlin Clark's exclusion from the USA Olympic team for the Paris Games was a decision that defied all rationales, financial, competitive, and otherwise. The decision stunned the entire world of international sports. It was incomprehensible. This was the most popular, talked about, and watched basketball player in the world. A woman who recently proved she could increase a niche sports viewership to Super Bowl levels. Additionally, she was informed that she lacked the necessary skills to serve as a reserve. The committee's official explanations were feeble, obvious, and obviously offensive. They brought up her alleged inexperience with the senior national team and her nebulous wish for unity within the team. Everyone with a head knew the real reason. even though a few of the players who were selected for the team lacked experience or had statistically worse seasons. You are not one of us. This was the most effective gatekeeping measure that could be implemented. Your fame doesn't matter to us. Your hordes of admirers or the enormous sums of money you make. You are not welcome at our exclusive club. It was a formal declaration from the establishment, and the decision was disastrous and self-defeating. A message from USA Basketball's ivory tower that appeared to be a formal declaration of war against the future of their own sport because it was clearly driven by politics, pride, and personal passions. Everyone was watching the Indiana Fevers front office as the sports media and the globe went crazy. They had just been publicly humiliated on a global level by their franchise player, their golden goose, and the sole reason for their resurgence. With their star player at the center of a global firestorm, their response would reveal all of their true allegiances. Everyone was anticipating a significant return for the Indiana Fever organization. Commentators, sponsors, and fans all expected a public statement and a passionate, emotional defense of their celebrity, of unwavering support for their troubled child, and a stern press statement criticizing the Olympic Committee's ridiculous decision. Rather, they encountered a deafening, purposeful, and soul-crushing silence. Fever only the most deliberate. President Lynn Dunn and the rest of the front made clinical, corporate-approved remarks about Caitlyn's bright future, the importance of the long term, and focusing on the WNBA season. Staff. There was absolutely no emotion, anger, fire, or struggle. And the terrible decision from. In that terrifying moment of inaction, the title of the video was eventually revealed. The roster wasn't controversial. Snub or a single severe foul. The Indiana Fever made the difficult strategic choice not to compete for their most valuable asset, music, rather than defend the person who was only providing funding for their team's return. To avoid upsetting the powerful and resentful establishment of the league, they decided to play the political game. It was a heartbreaking betrayal, a clear indication to Clark that she wasn't a player deserving of support and defense. But instead, they eagerly packed their arena to the rafters and sold her jerseys as a commodity, an asset to be controlled and profited from by the truckload. But when it came time to protect her from the well-established old guard, they shied away. This heartless financial calculation showed that even her own company was willing to put her health at risk in order to maintain their precarious position within the league's severe and ruthless power structure. The Olympic snub music and this purposeful silence exposed a terrifying, the harsh reality of professional sports. A fundamental conflict between two powerful opposing forces is at the core of the vast conflict, the unyielding money machine and the rigidly established culture. Caitlin Clark is the money. Her rookie salary is a startlingly low $76,000, which she most likely makes back for the league in a single quarter of games. She is personally responsible for earning tens of millions of dollars for the WNBA overall. Teams that once played in front of small crowds now fill NBA venues with 20,000 seats. Because she's on the opposing team's roster. The worth of the league's national. It is anticipated that the television rights deal will increase from just $60 million to possibly more than $240 million. The record jump was almost entirely due to her presence. She is the most valuable asset in the history of women's professional sports by any potential financial standard. Nevertheless, she encounters a deeply embedded culture and an older generation of executives and veterans who are vehemently opposed to the drastic change she stands for. They perceive her rapid rise as a personal slight and a challenge to their established hierarchy. And their arduous league history is now stuck in a confusing, self-destructive paradox rather than as a gift to the sport and music. It longs for Caitlin Clark's wealth, fame, music, and relevance. But it appears to be fundamentally reluctant to accept the cultural shift that she will inevitably bring. From the league's front office to the Olympic Selection Committee, key decision-makers appear to be prioritizing the long-term financial stability and quick growth over the wounded egos of a few powerful veterans. Of the entire company, this battle reveals a league at war with itself, with its greatest star caught in the crossfire, which is completely illogical from a business standpoint. What is the realistic outlook for Caitlin Clark's WNBA career? Considering her fierce rivals on the court, the potential for coldness in her own locker room, and the league office's startling decisions that are not in its best interests. One of the most thrilling, tumultuous, and dangerous sagas in modern. Right now, sports history is being made. Caitlin Clark is both the biggest apparent problem facing the WNBA and its unquestionable redemption. She is a generational athlete with exceptional talent who has to deal with a concerted campaign of physical assault on the court, a potential plot to keep quiet in her own locker room, and a political apparatus at the top level of the sport that seems committed to dehumanizing her whenever possible. At this point, there is no going back.